Would you say, though, yes, the standards have improved. The 9 darters are more there, the higher averages, but the technology, the actual boards, are they are a bit more user-friendly regarding staples, thinner wires.
Staples, certainly, I think, is a great move to have a stapleless dartboard, but there's nothing new in that. Crikey, way back, one of the companies brought out a stapleless dartboard with a wire that was so thin you could hardly see it. But it had its own problems in that the sisal overlapped the wire and then you couldn't see anything. So the modern dartboards have been technically advanced. Yes, you could argue that you've got a better vision, you're better sight of the target, therefore you should be able to hit it better, shouldn't you?
Well, in theory, I still can't.
Oh yes, it sounds easy, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. When you're standing 7'9" away.
Yeah. But you watch these boys on TV, and they make it look easy.
Oh, of course they do. And if you watch them close up on the tour as well, they're absolutely amazing because their performances are even better.
Yes, as I say, the standards have gone through the roof.
Well, you mentioned the match play, watching it. What unfolded over the match play was the Paul Nicholson saga between himself and Phil Taylor. Do you have any take on that, or have you followed that at all?
Well, I'm obviously aware of what happened. I don't know what instigated it. I know Paul personally. He's a unicorn player, the same as myself, same as Phil. I would say that away from the hockey, Paul's one of the nicest guys you want to meet. And I don't think Phil's a painted angel. But I think Mr. Nicholson dropped a clanger, and he's possibly reawakened a sleeping giant. I think probably the best policy is to let your darts do the speaking.
Well, being fair to Paul, I've met him a few times as well, spoke to him a few times also. He's been good enough to give us a few interviews. I think the last couple of times he's met Taylor on the TV tournament, he's let his darts do the speaking. He's beat him.
Oh yes, without a doubt. He's played superbly. No problem with that. But when he starts making comments such as he made, I think perhaps he stepped over the mark.
Well, being fair to Paul again, it was Phil that actually came out in a newspaper report being, I think, less than generous to Paul, and that was what Paul responded to. But not only that, Dave Clark kind of egged him on and led him into that.
Well, there's nothing new in television companies egging people on to sensational interviews. I mean, I seem to remember many years ago at Lakeside, Jockey losing a semi-final was plied with quite strong drink by one or two people who shall remain nameless, and then whipped into a studio for a live interview, which set the game back about 2 years. That was pretty poor effort, I thought, on the part of certain individuals within the BBC.
So that was a bit of a stitch-up.
It certainly was.
No,
and it was noted by the players, other players, and we certainly let the people who perpetrated it, let them know what we thought about it. And Jockey wasn't in any position to talk to anybody about anything by the time they got him into studio.
Yeah, Jockey.
And of course, the next day, the papers are rife and headlines are pretty damaging to darts.
Yeah, Jockey was pretty unique, and how I've heard stories about Jockey, falling asleep at an airport, missing his flights, that sort of stuff. But he was one hell of a character back there and then. And
I wish he was well enough to be part of the League of Legends.
I think that will go for you and every darts fan that ever saw him play.
I'm sure.
The guy is a legend. He's a true legend.
Yes, he is.
Well, there's 2 world championships out there now.
Right.
Lakeside and Ali Pali.
Yep.
Which, in your eyes, is the one that carries the more prestige? And if I could ask, why?
Okay. It's a good question. There are 2 world championships, as there are several world championships in boxing, amateur world championships, professional world championships in other sports. I'm a founder member of the PDC. Clearly, I'm biased towards a PDC championship because I do believe that overall the standard of darts is higher. That's not to say they don't have some wonderful players within the BDO, and they certainly do. But I think if you take every game in the cold light of day, I think averages are higher. Therefore, I would say that the Alexandra Palace tournament holds more prestige.
Well, I think regarding the Lakeside, because you do get a lot of players there that just haven't had the TV experience, the big stage experience. That could be something to do with it as well.
Well, why do you think that is? Why haven't they had the big screen or big stage experience? Because I can tell you why. It's because they haven't got the tournaments to give them that opportunity. The PDC have those tournaments and gives those opportunities.
Yeah, that's for sure. That is absolutely for sure. But it's a shame, in my opinion, that these young lads coming through, when they hit the stage, and you'll be able to tell anybody more than most what it's like going up the first time and seeing a bank of TV cameras with big lights, that big stage and a big crowd.
Absolutely terrifying. But somebody emerges. Somebody comes through it and deals with those nerves. And that somebody usually goes on to win. Now that somebody's got somewhere to go.
Well, that's somebody recently, especially on the Lakeside stage, is Mark Adams, who's been there and done it year after year after year.
Yeah. And he decided to stay where he was. I could say big fish in little pond, couldn't I? But I won't say that.
No, of course not. Of course not. I'm not going to say it either.
Martin's obviously made a sound business decision. And he's reaped the benefit. He's won 3 world championships. I question whether he'd won 3 world championships had he made the move with the rest of us, taking nothing away from his ability. But he would have had to deal with Mr. Taylor.
Yes, of course, and also taking nothing away from his ability. And I've met the guy, and he really is a nice guy.
Sure.
Make no mistake about that. It's. I think
I'm working with him on Bullseye, sir.
Well, I just hope he doesn't listen to this now.
I'm sure he will. I mean, I'm not giving him a bad time at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. But you're right. It was a good business decision and one that's right for himself, his family.
Yeah, Bobby George made the same decision.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And he makes no qualms about that either.
Right.
That's a fair play.
Well, he's got a skin like a rhinoceros, Mike.
Well, I haven't spoken to him yet, but hoping to.
That'll be an interesting one.
I bet it will.
I hope you've got a bleep button.
No, I don't mind if anybody wants to swear. Don't mind that at all. In fact, that would probably add to it. That could be fun.
Well, you'll have fun doing that with Bob.
I sincerely hope so. Now, in your past, you've been pretty much an all-round sportsman.
Yes.
Training for the Olympics in '68 with the javelin.
Well, I was training from '66 onwards. That's where I broke my arm throwing the blasted thing.
Well, that must have hurt.
Yeah, it was pretty painful. More painful mentally afterwards when I realised I couldn't throw again.
Yeah, I can understand that because there was that big goal.
Well,
the Olympics is the pinnacle of sport, isn't it?
It certainly is. I think so. I mean, it rivals everything in sport. I mean, the Olympics, the whole world stops to watch the Olympics. And if you can call yourself an Olympian and a gold medalist, my God, you've got something behind your name. Absolutely.
Did you think you actually had a good chance at the gold medal when you were practicing?
How old was I? I was just coming up 16, and I was throwing the Olympic javelin, which is 800 grams. At the time, the world record was just over 300 feet, held by a Finn, whose name escapes me. I think it was Pedersen. And at the age of 16, I was throwing the same javelin around 280 feet, so 20 feet behind the world record. And I was not quite 16. So yes, I think I did have a chance. I was being trained by, personally trained by Tom McNabb and the late Ron Pickering, who used to come to Swindon twice a week to give me personal tuition. And I had high hopes, but nature dictated otherwise.
You must have been absolutely gutted.
You could say that, yeah. My whole world disintegrated around me. I was due to represent England against the combined universities 3 weeks later in Oxford, and obviously had to pull out of that. And the rest is history.
I actually don't quite know what to say on that, to be honest. I didn't know. I knew you were selected. I actually didn't know how good you potentially were.
Well, you know, I had an explosive throw and loose capsules, it was been described by coaches. I mean, in other words, you know, I really launched the arm and the thing flew. There's no two ways about it. I made it fly. But there you go. It wasn't to be. So one door closed, another one opened. Big spears down to little arrows.
Yeah, but you also played football.
Yeah, I did. Soccer was my first love. It was in my blood. I had relatives who played pro and semi-pro soccer. And I wasn't a bad. I'd started life as a goalkeeper for Swindon Town schoolboys. But in every goalkeeper, there's a frustrated centre forward. And I came out and started scoring goals for fun. I had one or two trials, but wasn't good enough. But you know, I played to a reasonable level.
And then you ended up in darts.
And then I ended up playing darts because soccer was taken away from me again by injury.
How did you find out that you were actually good enough at darts to actually end up a multi-world champion? You know, the world masters, the world title.
We always played darts in the pub after football or whatever, after training, and I was pretty good, but without concentrating. And then when I couldn't play soccer anymore, something had to take its place, and I started playing darts more. Got in the local pub side, was asked to play Super League, played Super League, picked for county, picked for England, and away you go. She grew and grew like Topsy. But it was an awful lot of hard work, I can tell you, on the practice board.
So you put the hours in. You did
Yes.
You did what Phil Taylor was telling us every other week.
You've got to work. The game will only give you in proportion to what you're prepared to put into it. You put nothing in, you'll get nothing out, and very quickly.
Well, I've put years in, and I'm still crap.
Then I guess I must have been lucky.
I think it helps to have that little bit of natural talent as well. But,
yes.
So I don't think there's ever been what you would call a mechanical dart player.
I hope there never is one.
I don't think there can be, because I think you still have to have that bit of talent to actually progress it.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I do have to ask, and before I ask you, I'm just going to say, hi Randall, this is for you. You came on at the Circus Tavern on a horse. Where
Not
the
quite.
hell did that come from?
Not quite. I came on with a horse.
All right, with a horse.
Yeah, I wasn't mounted. Well, cowboy?
Yeah, granted,
cowboy. Peter Judge, who was the floor manager for Sky, said it would be a good idea if we got a horse. Well, I love horses. They don't like me. For whatever reason, I'm the only cowboy in the world that horses don't like.
Well, I believe...
And I can remember seeing this 17-hand hunter, ex-police horse. I can't remember his name. An absolutely beautiful animal, as calm as a cucumber in all this riotous noise. And I said to Peter Judge, I said, what are you going to do with all the crap on the stage? And he said, oh, no, he's all right. He's trained. I said, no, it won't be his.
So who deposited first?
No, I'm not sure.
I mean, I think it was either Clint Eastwood or John Wayne was actually allergic to horses.
Really? Well, I didn't know that.
I'm sure I've read that somewhere.
Oh, there you go.
And if you're listening, Randall, I know you'll put me right if I'm wrong.
Dear, dear.
Absolutely. How we start from darts and end up on horse crap, I don't know.
Well, there you go.
I think that's what it's called, banter. Bob, may I thank you on behalf of www.thedartsforum.com for taking the time to talk to me. And if I may, could I ask if we can catch up in the future as the Bullseye and the League of Legends go on?
Absolutely no problem at all, Martin. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
And yourself, pal. And you take care. It's been great talking with you.
Do that.
Cheers, mate.
Bye-bye.
Good luck.